Our intro music is provided by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com.
You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Well, thank you, John, for that nice intro. Hey, the weather in Gig Harbor at the compound, well, not as hot as it has been, but it's still not, as cool as I like to see it. But I think we've got a couple of nice hot weeks left before the weather goes to you-know-what. Hey, again, the FBI is warning people. Watch out for ATM machines that, because of the dark web and people's IDs and credit card information and all that stuff is, circulating quite heavily, that they, are now making fake ATM cards, and they're emptying, people's money out of the ATM machine. So keep an eye on your bank account. And are people getting more paranoid? I find, doing the show, it seems like in the last couple months, I think people are just getting a little bit more paranoid than they used to be. I wonder why. I mean, so many different things have transpired this past year. I mean, back, around October last year, the Navy, somehow the video came out from the two jet fighters from the aircraft carrier chasing after a UFO. And then November last year, the Secretary of the Air Force telling the cadets, the graduating cadets, the next war, don't worry, it's not going to be a ground war. It's going to be in outer space. Then a few months after that, our president was joking around. I'm going to create a space force. Okay. Well, I took that as a big laugh when he said that, because I think there's already been one for a long time. But then a couple months after he said that, him and the vice president, stood up and told the American public he's going to order the Pentagon to create a space force. Now, don't forget, it's all going to be funded by, the Congress. They're the ones that are going to make the final decision. And then, you know what? It's going to come out of our pockets. And don't worry about money issues. The IRS, keeps announcing that, because everybody's been getting anywhere from $25 to $100 more a paycheck. With the little cut there off your taxes, a lot of people they're worried about are going to owe next year. A lot are going to owe money to the IRS. So, hey, you got a good thing now. It's, like going to a shark, borrowing money and then spending it. And then all of a sudden you got to pay it back. And how many people out there, honestly, are living paycheck to paycheck? And when they do their taxes next April, I hate to say it, they better run to the bathroom real fast, because I'll tell you something, a lot of people are going to owe a lot of bucks to the federal government. Ola, are you there here tonight? Hopefully. Yes.
I'm here.
Okay, you're on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you got, me, Gary, and I hope you're having a great day.
Oh, yeah, I had a good day. How about you?
Well, anytime I can find my shoes in the morning and the car keys to take my daughter to work, I am doing good. At least I haven't put the car keys in the freezer for a couple of weeks.
There you go. I know the feeling.
But that's the first place I look now. I look in the refrigerator and the freezer. I don't know. Maybe it's because I go grocery shopping. I come up, I got the keys in my hand and I'm putting stuff in the freezer. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting senile like my wife keeps telling me.
I don't know. I hide them all over the place.
Well, I got from a motorcycle, I made a couple sets of keys for that. I keep, one in my vest. I keep one hid on the bike. And I got one, I don't even remember where I put the third set. But I make a point of having my keys all around the place. That way I at least can find one set in emergency.
There you go.
So, have you noticed people are getting more paranoid about a lot of things, especially the paranormal things or the government, conspiracies, and all this stuff now more than ever? Or is it just my imagination?
I think it's cyclical. I remember in the 90s, the age of the black helicopters and the mysterious UN trains. It kind of ebbs and it flows. So I think we go through periods of paranoia. I think that there's, no matter if you're on the right or you're on the left or you're in the middle or you're up high or low or whatever, I think that there's machinations going on in the government that that people worry about, and it makes them paranoid, and there's things going on in the world that make them paranoid. So, what we've got is a kind of Orwellian 1984 deal, and I think that the petrodollar collapsed at some point, so the Russians are reigniting the Cold War, and it's good for our economy, so we reignite the Cold War too. So once that kind of starts to go, then people start thinking about nuclear bombs and lasers and all that kind of stuff, and I think it makes them paranoid. So yeah, I would say that people are more paranoid, but maybe not more than ever, but definitely it's a paranoid period.
Well, what I'm more worried about, not so much of, Russia, threatening us down the road with nuclear weapons. I'm more worried about them, breaking into like the power stations in this country, getting into the grid and figuring out they could shut down our grid circuit in this country faster than you count to 3. And if they shut it down, it's not instantly being able to be initialized. It takes a period of time to bring it all back online. So, I mean, it could cause major chaos, let alone it could do a lot of damage of transformers and all that stuff popping and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, and I think that goes on both sides. I mean, as much as the Russians can do it to us, we can do it right back. So it's, that's what's called détente, right? That whatever they can do to us, pretty much we can do to them. So, it just makes everybody more paranoid because we worry about it. They're worrying about it, so everybody's worrying about it. So, yeah, it creates a very paranoid period. But what you're seeing is the beginning of the new Cold War, right? So with that kind of thing, you're going to start, you see, the Russians are out there flexing their muscle. Okay, well, we built hypersonic missiles and all kinds of crap. And it's like, and then we go, well, you know what? We built hypersonic missiles and all kinds of crap. And so, they get nervous, we get nervous. And then the paranoia starts to slowly ratchet up and up and up until, you get to where we were in the 50s or the 60s. I think right now we're in like 1949. We're right on the verge of the 50s when it started to get really Cold War-ish.
Well, hey, look at the bright side. I know a guy that does underground fallout shelters, and his business has been down the rocks for the last couple of years. I mean, he said hardly anybody, is buying, these pre-made fallout shelters that they just dig a big trench in and drop it in. But I got a funny feeling maybe in the next year or two, again, I guess maybe his business will start picking up again as the paranormal starts setting back in with people, panicking about what's going on.
Well, there's been a massive increase in, people looking to build bunkers. I mean, I know of at least 3 or 4 people who are in the process of trying to, figure out if they can actually like put a bunker in their backyard. And for all the people that I've talked to about it, that it's not so much, nuclear, like back in the 50s, it was like, let's get a lead-lined, coffin down there that we can survive a nuclear holocaust. Everybody I've talked to, it's not so much that, it's more like apocalyptic from the point of view of like the zombie apocalypse kind of stuff, or, the GMOs, or, some sort of civil unrest and things like that.
Well,
which is different.
Well, you know what? If the grid system went down, I mean, if it went down, like from a solar flare, for example, we don't have the transformers in this country. We don't even build them anymore. They're all done out of Turkey, matter of fact, because of the oils they use are so hazardous and contaminate everything. So, they're manufactured in Turkey, they're handmade yet and all that stuff. Well, what I find is interesting, if the grid system goes down, you're talking about, if it's a major flare, since we can't seem to afford to beef up our grid system in our country, but we can spend money. I don't know if you listened to my show the other night. There's a group of scientists that was on the news here about 2 weeks ago. We're saying, well, hey, we can make Mars livable. One of their ideas was nuke the ice caps, and that would melt the ice caps. It would make rivers, it'd make lakes, and it would make an ocean.
Yeah.
But then there was another group of scientists said, hey, you guys are dumb shits. The atmosphere is so thin in Mars, if you did that, it would evaporate almost as fast as it melts. And then there was another group of scientists said, hey, you guys don't even know what you're talking about. You nuke the ice caps. You know what's going to happen? It's going to be irradiated. It's full of radiation. Nothing's going to grow. It's contaminated. So you defeat your whole purpose. And we spent all this money for this research to do that when we could be beefing up our grid system in this country?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you always, back when they did the original nuclear weapons test, there was a group of scientists who were like, oh, nothing's going to happen. And there was a group of scientists that were like, the air we breathe is going to catch on fire. The entire, Earth will turn into a cinder cone. And I mean, there are as many scientists with opinions as there are people. There's a lot of difference of opinion. But yeah, I'm sure it would irradiate it. I mean, you're dropping a nuclear weapon. Of course it's going to irradiate it. I mean, that's like Operation Plowshares. Do you know about Plowshares?
No, go ahead. I mean, go ahead and tell the listeners out there.
So Plowshares was this program in the DOD where they thought to themselves, well, we've got all these nuclear weapons, right? We're not really doing anything with them. Let's use them for something positive. And so one of the big things they wanted to do was to set off a chain of nuclear bombs to create another Suez Canal. Well, they decided to run some tests. Huh?
I was laughing on that one.
Okay. So they decided to run some tests. So they took this bomb up to Alaska somewhere, and they detonated it, and they created this beautiful, like, deep water harbor. I mean, you could, like, park a, aircraft carrier in there. It was a perfect, like, crescent shape. Gorgeous, amazing, beautiful harbor. But the radiation was so severe, you wouldn't be able to use it for about 10,000 years. And so then they shut down Plowshares. But the idea was to use these extra nuclear weapons that we happen to have, and to create, like, reservoirs and create, transcontinental canals and all kinds of craziness. But then they figured out that the radiation was bad. And then they abandoned it.
And I wonder how much money it costs the government to come up with all those ideas. That's the ridiculous part.
A lot.
Yeah, the same one like on Mars, okay? I can see, okay, maybe create and get things going. But the standpoint is that the atmosphere is so thin. And after I heard that and read about it, I did more research on it. The scientists are right. It would evaporate. It would be nothing there holding that water on Mars. It'd be gone. It'd be history. So, I mean, what's the whole point?
Well, are you familiar with Brandenburg's research?
Very little.
He believes that he's found evidence that they're sometime like 15 or 20 or 30,000 years ago or sometime, that there was a massive series of nuclear detonations on Mars.
I wouldn't doubt that.
Tried it.
Yeah, I got a funny feeling that it wouldn't take much for our Earth to look like that and be like that. And that's what also has got me nervous right now. I mean, some of these people I've been talking to want to come on as guests and stuff. One of them is a scientist, and his thing is that he said that we're so close to the magnetic, doing a flip on our planet.